Hey everyone, welcome back for your embodiment flavor of the week. I'm here with Tobin. Hey Tobin.
Hey, Julie.
For those who are tuning in for the first time, Tobin Giblin is a spiritual counselor and author of The Art of Mindful Living. And he and I have been sharing up some juicy little slices of
Never
how,
a dull moment.
never a dull moment, how you can really embody different aspects of our existence in your life in ways that create a lot of meaning. And today we're going to talk about Tobin's favorite topic.
Devotion, true devotion, what I call authentic devotion. The thing that makes all the difference in whether our life, our path, our journey actually gains a liberating and transformative effect in a real way over time or not. I
Yeah,
mean, it's really the bottom line. It is the bottom line, and it's a subtle thing. I know people who are on this path for 20, 30 years who I don't feel actually have this little ingredient in place, and their life, is kind of hovering in the same dimension. Whereas people who do have this, that deep, deep devotional quality or willingness or commitment to what we'll talk about today, their life actually takes off in a profound and beautiful way.
I love this topic too. I always called it commitment until I met you. And then like devotion just like, oh, it just like, yeah, that's the right word. And
Mm.
I've had this question in my being for a long time, even when I was starting to work with clients, because it's like, what is the thing that somehow comes naturally to me, and I see that it comes naturally to you,
Hmm.
that has allowed my life to actually have a lot of shifts and expansion in big ways, but not in ungrounded ways, in grounded ways. And when you put the word devotion to it, it was like, yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
And how do we embody that? How do we teach that? How do we be examples of that? I mean, I think it's such a powerful topic. It's something I think I'll spend my life exploring and teaching.
I agree. It's the ultimate inquiry. What is that really? What is that secret little catalyst? It's the catalytic ingredient that creates true transformation. And I want to make sure that people listening or watching right now get that we're not talking about devotion to something outside of you. This isn't the kind of devotional quality that a lot of spiritual paths talk about, where you
Right.
devote to the guru or devote to the blue light or devote yourself to something out
Right,
there.
or some
It's a,
practice. What's that one where they like do a certain number of movements?
Yeah,
I
right. All
remember.
the prostrations and all that. And that can
Prostration.
be beautiful. In fact, this is inherent in those practices. We're talking about the little magic, mysterious piece that's in somebody's heart
Yeah,
that if you bring to those practices or any practice will transform you.
right.
But there's a real deep sincerity and commitment slash devotion that
Yeah.
we want to look at, talk about, expose, and help people try to get in touch within themselves so they can live it, embody it, and take it into their entire life existence such that their reality changes fundamentally.
So let's give some examples of how this. I feel like we could just give some examples that will start to bring it more real. Because if you are feeling devoted to a practice, a purpose, or a way of being, and there's something in your life that fundamentally has not shifted, and it's been like the Achilles heel,
Mm-hmm.
then this might be a really great place to explore where there's like a dropping in on a deeper level of to trust, to
Yeah,
accept, to be vulnerable to life and
yeah.
accept you're okay, like even though this is what's showing itself and I don't like it, I'm going to embrace it wholeheartedly and allow it to be the alchemistic thing that transforms this place that's stuck.
Yes, yes. Beautiful. So let's give some examples. I mean, you're referring to that Achilles heel scenario that I think almost everyone can relate to something in your life not working the way you want it to, repeating itself. A lot of women I know have this thing of like, if I could find the one, but for some reason it's like this elusive one, or it could be money, it could be your health, it could be your weight, it could be you name it. It
Or
could
you
be
know what I
even in
see a
spiritual
lot
practice.
is
People
like,
who've done this.
well,
What's that?
sorry, I see this a lot where everything looks on the external like it's going well. I've got a partner, I've got my house, I've got this job that I supposedly like, I've got money, and something's still missing, and I still fundamentally don't feel okay.
Beautiful.
Ugh,
Beautiful.
that
Let's
missing
put all
piece.
those. Let's put all those in one big category, one big ball, and say what is the main thing that's going on there, versus someone who's getting this deep alchemy that you're referring to. And
Yeah.
to me, the one thing, is that the people who are feeling this dissatisfaction and this frustration and this looping, this repetitive nature, is that they're focused outside. There's like a fundamental focus of out there. If something out there could come in and feed me, then I'll feel better.
Right. Yeah.
And the devotion we're talking about is turning inward.
Yeah. I call this sourcing from within.
Exactly. You have the most beautiful term for it, sourcing from within. So that's really the devotion. I think if we boil it right down, it's
That's right.
I'm devoted to sourcing from within. Now, what does that mean? What does that look like? How do we actually do that?
Well, here's the thing that's so tricky when you're stuck in this looking out there. When you source from within, it's only when you truly fundamentally go to that place within that is the core of your being and allow it to move through that sticky place, the external will shift.
Yes.
But you have to totally let go of your expectation, agenda, or even what that will look like, because it might not look how you think it's going to look, but it will shift. At that point, it doesn't even matter. It's like the meaning, the satisfaction has been accessed within the self.
That's right. So this is a paradoxical thing, because when you source from within, we got to remember that the fundamental truth of our existence is that it's not in and out. It's all one thing ultimately.
Right.
It's the same thing. So it's not a division. We don't just like go in a cave and I'm going to source from within, like screw everything out there. I don't need it. I'm transcending my life, reality. It's not a pendulum swing like that.
No.
It's an inner tilting of the scales, where instead of grasping out and hoping and wishing and, like you said, having an agenda and mental fixation on specific scenarios to fulfill us, we get more subtle than that. We get more deep than that. We get more sincere and heartfelt. And we find where the real source of all of our true satisfaction is, which is into and through our very own experience, our very own inner nature. Now, this is where it gets tricky, because in the beginning especially, but also for a very, very long time, as you go in, you meet that which you've been trying to avoid by going out, which is some uncomfortable states, right? And that's where we really need the devotion. I'm so devoted to this new way of being, this way of living that feels authentic and true, that I'm willing to be with things that aren't comfortable to connect with that which will really satisfy my heart and my life.
Yeah, I'll just give my own example. I was leaving a relationship, and I remember I had been like consciously saying, I'm not ready for this. No, I won't. I want this thing out there. Just telling the universe that. And it was super, super painful. I mean, talk about torturing yourself. And when I finally made the decision to actually go in there and face that part of me that thought that the safety was out there or in the relationship, or that whatever all those places were in me, it was like a couple months where every day I had to sit with that part of me and hold it.
Yes.
And its instinct was like, no, go back out there. And I would
anything but that. Yeah.
No.
Exactly.
Like literally, and sometimes even get some support for that, but just holding that part of me that didn't know it was safe. And that was my devotion. My devotion was to that practice, even though it was the most painful thing I could experience at that time. It created such a fundamental shift in my being. Because as I did that day after day after day, it's almost like when they talk about addiction, like to drugs, it's like it's like sometimes I'm not going to drink or have an addiction today. It's like I'm only going to one breath. That's where I was at with this. It's like I'm just going to focus on the next breath, and if I can get through that, I'll go on to the next one. I mean, I've been in those places of facing parts of myself, and as I did that day after day after day, the shift was so profound, because I began to realize I was okay, and that there was this deeper part of me that was so much more satisfying, which was great. But I also something shifted that I knew no matter what came at me, I had that ability to do that. So life became a lot more free. Life became a lot more free.
Beautiful, beautiful. God, there's so much in what you're saying, but I want to reflect the piece. That's like a perfect example of what I'm referring to as the devotion. It's like you were devoted to the truth of your experience instead of being run by the old patterns and the habits and the part of you that is. It's literally an addiction. It's on so many levels. It's really what drives all addictions. It's this place in us that just, it's like a subtle or not so subtle, sometimes very intense burn that we want to get away from. So we go out, we go out, we go out. And I call it the hot spot. And in order to have a truly transformed life, we have to be willing and able and skillful and devoted in our re-navigation into and through and with that hot, tender spot in our being. And you just gave a perfect example of that. And it's a moment-by-moment thing. It's a day-by-day thing, hour-by-hour. We can't do it perfectly. I don't know anyone who can just sit there and burn all day, and I don't even recommend that. There's an art form to this. But a lot of our devotion will be going into and through uncomfortable states because that's what drives our repetitive loops.
Yeah. And we talked a little bit last week in the show, Tobin, after the flavor of the week, about how transformation can happen in an instant. It's like, oh, I'm looking outside myself. I need to look within. That's great. But there's this integration, and that's the devotion. Bless you.
Yeah.
That's the devotion. It's like, now that I have this new awareness, I have to be devoted to integrating it into my life on a day-to-day basis in meaningful ways. And a lot of times we don't see that happening. We look out into the world and we see, how come that person's doing so well with this? We aren't seeing how they might be devoted to those day-to-day, integrating new ways of being that can be uncomfortable, but that's part of that growth process.
Yes, exactly. And it's the most fulfilling, rewarding, profound thing that I think life has to offer. It's where the real is. It's where the real meat and heart of life is. Anything else just leads you to surface, like staying on the surface in whatever way. I mean, like you said, even people who have it kind of all figured out in really good ways, if they aren't delving, sourcing from within, as you call it, there's a disconnect, there's a flatness, there's an inherent dissatisfaction that just can take over the human consciousness if it's not connected to its inner source. But to be connected to our inner source, given all the power of these forces that take us out, is why we need devotion. Because without it, we just are at the mercy of this profoundly powerful, like almost like a river that's just washing us down in one direction. We got to be devoted if we want to go up that way to get to the true riches and gold that life has to offer.
Yeah, there is so much juice here in this conversation, and I look forward to continuing it on the radio show with you, Tobin, in a lot of different ways. That this is coming to the end of our Embodiment Flavor of the Week. Except for that, we have a very special, exciting treat that we're going to share today, right?
It's up to you, Julie.
For those of you who are listening on the show or not checking us out on video, I invite you to come over to embodiedawakeningradio.com. Tobin and I are going to dance devotion. So we're going to put on some music. We're going to Skype dance devotion just to really get in our bodies and explore how we authentically move through this quality. And so we invite you to join with us, whether you're watching at home or tuning in at home. And just a little fun way to see us authentically expressing ourselves.
And not only is this for your entertainment value, so you can just crack up at us, but the whole idea of doing a dance is that this is an embodied flavor. This is something that you walk and talk and live in a day-to-day way. And dance is a great way to just kind of bridge that from the conceptual to the embodied, to the physical. Yeah. And then we try to live it the rest of our entire existence.
Yeah. Awesome. Let's get it into our bodies. Okay, come on over, embodiedawakeningradio.com. Check out this week's blog post. Tobin and I will be dancing in devotion. It's an experiment.
Let's do it.
I can't believe I'm the one who's so lonely.
of the week dance.
Yes, blazing new grounds with Julie Migneault. I love it. Thank you for bringing me to my edge. It reminds me of our other flavors of the week of boldness and vulnerability. And all
I didn't really think about that I wasn't thinking about that people are going to see it while I was doing it. That will be when my edge gets hit, not when I was dancing it.
That's the way to do it. Stay out of the mind and in the body. Yay. That was so fun.
It is fun. I invite everybody watching to go dance today. Put a little snippet of music on and see if you can find that pathway out of your head into your body and let your body teach you. Let your body show you what devotion is.
Yeah, exactly. And the fun thing is I've done this for the last few years where every song I listen to, or most songs, you know, you hear even like top 40 fun, crazy, silly club songs, they all have some devotional element to them. You have to translate them a little bit. I actually have a whole book I want to write on how hip-hop can translate to true devotion. So I actually hear these songs as devotional songs.
Yeah.
And yet, obviously, they're coming mostly from the ego and they're going outward. But you, like the song we just listened to, Ain't Nobody, it was just like the perfect love song. If you translate it from your heart, it's like, oh yeah, spirit, truth, love, here it is.
Awesome.
And you just get to move it, dance it, sing it. It's all good.
Thank you so much for hitting that edge with me and for being vulnerable to show yourself to everybody who's going to tune in and watch your bravery, your boldness, your amazing devotion to truth, to life. I'm honored to do this with you. Thanks, Tobin.
You too, Julie. You too. It's like where the real life is, on this edge. Let's keep living it.
Sounds good. We'll see you guys next week.
Everybody.
Bye.
So good to be here.